Hey guys, so the battle for the Game of Thrones is over, the battle for the control of the throne. But there is another more deadly battle that is continuing on, and that is the game of scones. That's right, the battle between ourselves and bringing refined foods that are tempting to us into our environment. So here's the scenario that we have lost weight. We've taken some weight off. We've been doing really, really well on our weight loss plan, whatever that weight loss plan looks like. You've been exercising, you've been releasing weight, you've been eating the chicken and the broccoli and releasing weight, and you've gotten some weight off. And then there's this part of our mind, don't know what that part is, I like to call it the inner rebel, that likes to say to you, now we can go get something like our favorite scone and let's just have a treat and reward ourselves, right? Because now that we've lost the weight, we are cured. How many of you have gone through that, right? I'm cured. I'm going to be okay. I can bring the scones into my house. They're going to be just fine because I'm in control now. So now you come in and maybe you eat the scone. Maybe you eat part of the scone and you're like, okay, I'm good for now. But something now has occurred, which is more deadly than the Valerian steel in this knife, right? What has happened is that your mind has now gotten tweaked because you've eaten a trigger food of yours, which is the scone, one of your favorite foods. See, we all have trigger foods that trigger our brain, even if we eat a little of them. And once we eat that little bit, our brain wants more and more and more. Now, we didn't just bring one scone into the house because we were treating ourselves. We brought 6 scones into the house. And these 6 scones are now sitting on the cupboard or, on the counter in the kitchen. And now, even though we said, no, I'm not going to eat any more, now they're calling our name. The scone is calling our name. Come and eat me. I'm out here. You can have me. Oh, it's okay. You can just have a little bit. No, I'm not going to eat you a scone. Oh, I think you want me. We walk past them. Every time we go through the kitchen, we have to think about them. We can't have them. We're struggling. Guess what happens? That's right. We eat the scone, and then we eat another scone, and then we eat another scone, and maybe then we eat another scone. And pretty soon, those scones are gone. And now what's happened in our mind is our mind and our body have now gotten tweaked from all that refined carbohydrates, and it's now wants more. And that it's like the dragon has gotten awakened in our mind, that carb dragon, carb zombie, carb dragon, that now is invested in your continuing to eat more. And now we feel hungrier because it's reawakened that dragon that lives in our mind. So how do we gain control of the game of scones? Okay, so I'm not saying that long-term permanent weight management is not about never eating a treat again. Oh, no. That's not what I'm saying. But we need to learn to stay and be the one who is wielding the sword in this relationship with refined carbohydrates, because refined carbohydrates do impact our brain and body differently than other foods, especially if we've been struggling with our weight. We can probably consider ourselves fairly carbohydrate sensitive, and our brains and our body are just more sensitive to carbohydrates than, that your friend who can eat a scone for breakfast and then get on her day and not think about it ever again. Okay, so here are some things to think about as you continue on your weight mastery journey. Oh, by the way, if you don't know me, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. I just wanted you to know, just in case, I assumed we knew each other, but if we didn't, that's who I am, and nice to meet you. So the first thing we want to do is practice some stimulus control. Now, blah, 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 if I could pronounce it, stimulus control is really a skill. It is a skill that we take for granted often, which is, the skill of stimulus control is just not bringing the foods that stimulate us into our environment. Because once a stimulating food is in our environment, meaning a food that's sort of like a trigger food for us, if we eat one, then we're going to want to eat more of them. Even if we don't eat them and they're sitting in our cupboard, we know they're there. I remember many times dieting and, bringing something and putting it in the freezer and knowing exactly where it was in the freezer. And it would call my name even from the freezer, whether it was a bag of jelly beans or a piece of cake that I thought I could freeze. And I just ended up gnawing it, gnawing the frosting off of it, rock hard frosting, gnawing it off the cake in order to eat it, right? So, yep, that piece of cake was calling my name from the freezer, and I ate it anyway because I was losing the game of scones. So how I began to win my game of scones and release 40 pounds and keep them off for, over 20 years is I learned to practice the skill of stimulus control, which was like to really get real with myself and understand that I don't bring foods into my environment, and people who love me don't bring foods into my environment that are just going to stimulate me. And, there's a lot of foods I can eat. There's a lot of foods you can eat, but the foods that are trigger foods should probably not come into your environment. How many times did I have to go to the grocery store, say, oh, I think I'm cured now, buy something like this, have it sit on the counter, and then end up demolishing it and then being off my diet and then being back where I started again and again. How many times did I have to feel so frustrated because of that and feeling like a failure and feeling like I couldn't pull it together until I kind of got it. It wasn't about me. It was about learning a skill of stimulus control. So that is a skill that you can begin to hone. It isn't about that you're undisciplined. It's just when the human brain and body are repeatedly exposed to this and then we have a sensitivity to it, we're going to fall the victim to it. So be powerful and lock those things away in the grocery store, leave them in the grocery store. Or here's some ways that we can have a relationship with these things. Is we keep them out of our house and we create a loving boundary around them. So cake, for instance, remember me chewing that rock hard piece of cake. What I learned for me is that I've put a loving boundary around cake. I do not usually eat cake. I never eat cake unless it's my birthday or the birthday of one of my children or my husband. So that is my little special boundary. And on those days I have one piece of cake, I eat it, I enjoy it, and I can move on from it because I'm not bringing a big cake into the house. Or if I make a cake, I make it small enough that we just have a serving and we get on with it. I manage it and I've made a loving boundary around it. Another example of a loving boundary would be to go out and eat ice cream instead of bringing it into your house. Just have a single serving when you go out and eat ice cream. Or maybe you only have crackers on the weekend, and again, you have a boundary around it. So you keep it in small portion sizes, or you don't keep a bunch of them in your house. You only bring what you're going to eat into the house. That would be another example of creating a loving boundary. The more clear, so our relationship with ourselves in weight management, we have to be honest with ourselves and we have to get really clear about the things that just, we gain weight with the same foods at the same times in the same places. And if these things are our nemesis, then we need to have an understanding that probably we're going to have a powerful relationship for the rest of our lives. We're managing that relationship. I think what the illusion is that we are going to get cured and then these kinds of things are going to be okay to eat. And like I said, you can eat them in specific circumstances with love and care. But the idea that we're going to be that person who can have them hanging out on our counter in our house, that you have to get over that idea. And I say that with the utmost amount of respect for you, because I know that you feel bad about yourself when you overeat that stuff, and those days are done. Now you're gonna practice stimulus control, and you're gonna understand it's really not you. It's just that you're managing and keeping yourself free, your brain free and your body free of the foods that ignite that dragon within you. and burn down the entire village. Because that's kind of what happens. Hate to say it, but it's true. If you watched Game of Thrones. If you didn't, you won't get that. But anyway, season 8? Never mind. So not an option. Not an option. There are just certain foods that are just not going to be an option ever, 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 ever. For me, it's candy corn. For me, it's black jelly beans. For me, it is certain types of frosting that just are like heroin, and cake is like the delivery device for the heroin, which is frosting. I can eat certain kinds of cake just fine, one piece, and I'm good. But so I respect myself, and those foods are not an option. When things aren't an option in our brain doesn't bug us for them. Over time, when we're just clear like that, if I eat those jelly beans, I might get 1 or 2 seconds of pleasure, and then the rest will be pain because I'm going to continue to eat them. And I'm going to get a sugar high. I'm going to feel bad. It's not going to be pretty. So I'm very clear that there are very certain foods that are not an option no matter what. There are certain foods that I can have loving boundaries around, but usually I'm not bringing those foods into my house, that I'm having them outside of the house or in small portions, bringing them to the house. I'm not bringing a big Costco-sized container of them into my house. And I am practicing the powerful skill of stimulus control. And that is how we put the Valerian sword of our weight mastery into these refined carbohydrates and put them into our past, and we walk forward into our powerful future, looking forward, slim, healthy, high confidence, weight masterful. All right, you guys, have an awesome day. Go slay those inner dragons and claim that, put that game of scones behind you. Bye.